Tonight, as the house grows quiet and the day slowly fades into darkness, perhaps your heart feels heavier than anyone realizes. Maybe you have spent years smiling for others, speaking kindly, staying strong, and carrying on as though everything is fine, while inside there has been an ache that few people have ever truly seen. Perhaps no one knows how many nights you've whispered into your pillow, how many tears have fallen after everyone else was asleep, how many times you have sat in a quiet room, surrounded by memories, wondering why loneliness can feel so loud. Maybe there is an empty chair that still catches your eye, a voice you miss hearing, a hand you wish you could hold one more time. Perhaps retirement brought more silence than you expected. Perhaps children became busy with lives of their own. Perhaps phone calls grew fewer, and days began to feel longer. And somewhere along the way, you learned how to carry your sadness quietly, to smile during the day, to say, "I'm doing okay," even when your heart felt tired, even when you wished someone would simply ask how you have really been. But Jesus already knows. He sees every hidden tear, every sleepless night, every silent prayer, every moment when you felt forgotten. And if you've ever wondered whether Jesus notices these quiet tears, tonight, he wants you to know something beautiful. Something beautiful happens when we realize that Jesus is not far away from our pain. He is not watching from a distance. He is not impatient with our sadness. He is not disappointed that we still carry grief after all this time. Tonight, perhaps you can imagine him sitting quietly beside your bed. No bright lights, no noise, only the gentle stillness of the night. Perhaps there is a soft lamp glowing nearby, or moonlight resting against the curtains. And in that peaceful moment, Jesus is simply there, present, compassionate, listening. He understands what it means to lose someone deeply loved. He understands tears, because he himself wept. He understands unanswered prayers. He understands the loneliness that visits when the house becomes quiet and memories begin to speak. He understands the ache of feeling abandoned, the pain of being misunderstood, the burden of carrying sorrow that few people ever notice. And yet he remains near, not condemning, not asking you to be stronger, not expecting you to hide your emotions, only offering his presence, only reminding you that your tears have never embarrassed him. Your weariness has never pushed him away. Your questions have never caused him to leave. Perhaps for many years you have carried certain hurts all by yourself. Perhaps you stopped talking about them because you feared no one would understand. But Jesus understands, completely, tenderly, perfectly, and perhaps the deepest pain is not what happened to us, but what we have carried alone for so many years, for a long time. Perhaps you have carried wounds that were never fully spoken aloud, wounds that stayed hidden beneath ordinary conversations, polite smiles, and familiar routines. Maybe you lost someone whose absence still changes the feeling of every holiday, every birthday, every quiet evening. Perhaps there are conversations you wish you could have one more time, words you never had the chance to say, questions that still linger gently in your heart. Maybe someone left this world before you were ready, or perhaps someone is still here. Yet the relationship feels distant now. Children who rarely call, family members who drifted away, friendships that faded with time, and sometimes the loneliness of being forgotten can hurt almost as much as grief itself. Perhaps you carry regrets about parenting, moments you wish you had handled differently, times you wonder if you loved enough, I said enough, or gave enough. Maybe aging has brought fears you never expected, changes in health, less energy, more uncertainty, a growing awareness that life moves quickly, even when the days seem long. And perhaps, somewhere deep inside, you still wonder whether anyone truly misses you, whether anyone notices your quiet faithfulness. But Jesus notices. He sees every hidden wound, every disappointment, every fear, every memory that still feels tender. And tonight, there is no judgment here, only permission. Permission to grieve, permission to miss what was beautiful, permission to cry if tears come. Because tears are not weakness. Sometimes they are simply love continuing to speak. And tonight, Jesus gently invites us to loosen our grip on the worries we were never meant to carry by ourselves. For so many years, perhaps you have felt responsible for keeping everything together, worrying about finances, thinking about your children long after they became adults, wondering if your grandchildren will be safe, healthy, and happy, carrying concerns about doctor visits, changing seasons of life, and the uncertainty of what tomorrow may bring. And maybe there are moments when the thought quietly slips into your heart, what if I have to face the future alone? What if there is no one nearby when I need someone? What if the days ahead become harder? These questions can feel heavy, especially in the stillness of night, when there are fewer distractions and more room for anxious thoughts to grow. Yet tonight, Jesus speaks with gentleness. You do not have to solve tomorrow tonight. You do not have to carry next week's worries into this moment. You do not have to hold tightly to every outcome as if everything depends upon your strength. Perhaps you can imagine yourself carrying several heavy bags, one filled with fear, another filled with loneliness, another with regret, another with uncertainty. You have carried them faithfully for a long time, long enough, and now Jesus stands before you with open hands, patient, inviting, not forcing, simply asking if you are willing to let him help. As you place each burden down, perhaps your shoulders begin to soften, your breathing slows, the tension in your body eases just a little, because what we release into God's hands becomes lighter than anything we try to carry ourselves. And perhaps, for the first time in a long while, you can allow yourself to stop holding on so tightly, not because your concerns no longer matter, not because your love has grown smaller, but because you were never created to carry every burden alone. Jesus understands how weary a heart can become after years of loving deeply, giving generously, and quietly enduring seasons that seemed longer than expected. Tonight, imagine placing your grief into his hands, the grief of missing someone whose laughter still echoes in your memories, the grief of saying goodbye, the grief of watching life change in ways you never imagined. Place your loneliness into his care, the quiet evenings, the empty spaces, the longing to hear a familiar voice once again. Place your fears before him, your worries about tomorrow, your unanswered questions, your concerns about health, family, and the years still ahead. Place your regrets there too, the moments you wish you could revisit, the words you wish had been spoken, the decisions you still replay in your mind. Jesus receives them all gently, without criticism, without impatience, without asking you to explain why they still hurt. There is only compassion in his presence, only understanding, only love. And perhaps you can hear him whispering softly to your heart tonight. You do not have to carry this alone anymore. You do not have to prove your strength. You do not have to hide your tears. Jesus is strong enough for what has exhausted you, strong enough for the sorrow you cannot fix, strong enough for the future you cannot see. And as your hands slowly become empty, perhaps your heart begins to notice something beautiful. God's promises have room now to settle quietly within you, bringing hope where weariness once lived. Hope often returns very quietly, not as a sudden change, not as all the answers arriving at once, but as a gentle reminder that even in our loneliest seasons, God has never stepped away. Perhaps there were nights when you wondered if your prayers had become too familiar, too repetitive, too small. Perhaps you whispered the same concerns over and over again, hoping that somehow heaven would answer in a way you could finally understand. Yet even then, God was listening. He remembers every prayer spoken through tears, every sigh that never became words, every moment you sat in silence, simply wishing for comfort. You have never been forgotten, not by the God who formed your heart, not by the Savior who understands sorrow, not by the one who promised to remain with his children always. Even now, in this season of life, your worth has not diminished. Growing older does not make you less precious. Retirement does not remove your purpose. Widowhood does not erase the love that was shared. Loneliness does not mean abandonment. You are still deeply known, still deeply loved, still deeply held. God remains faithful, faithful in the days that feel full, faithful in the days that feel empty, faithful in moments of laughter, faithful in moments of grief, faithful when the future feels uncertain, faithful when your heart feels tired. And perhaps tonight, as these promises begin to settle softly within you, you can breathe a little easier, because you do not have to earn God's attention. You already have it. You do not have to prove your value. You already belong to Him. And as these promises settle into the heart, even painful memories can begin to soften. Memories have a way of visiting us when the world becomes quiet. Sometimes they arrive gently, like the warmth of sunlight through an old window, and sometimes they come carrying a little sadness, reminding us of people, place, and seasons that can never be lived exactly the same way again. Perhaps there are wedding photographs tucked away in a drawer, pictures of children when they were small, letters written by a loved one whose handwriting still feels familiar, holiday gatherings filled with laughter, conversations that seemed ordinary at the time, yet now feel priceless. Perhaps there are moments you wish you could step back into, if only for a little while. A final embrace, one more meal shared together, one more opportunity to say, "I love you." And perhaps there are memories touched by disappointment as well, moments that unfolded differently than you hoped, dreams that changed, relationships that became distant, prayers that seemed to remain unanswered. Yet tonight, Jesus invites you to hold these memories gently, not with regret, not with bitterness, but with tenderness, because love does not disappear when someone is gone. Love remains. It changes shape. It settles into the heart. It becomes gratitude for what was once given. And perhaps it is possible for sadness and thankfulness to exist together, to miss someone deeply and still cherish the gift of having known them, to feel tears rise and yet also feel warmth. Jesus understands every memory you carry. He treasures the love behind them, and little by little, what once felt only painful can begin to feel sacred, not because the loss is forgotten, but because love continues to speak. And when our hearts begin to heal, peace slowly spreads beyond us and into the very rooms where we live. Perhaps your home is especially quiet tonight. The conversations of the day have faded. The television has been turned off. The dishes are put away. The world outside has grown still, and only the soft sounds of the night remain. And in this peaceful moment, imagine Jesus walking gently through your home. He moves slowly, with tenderness, as though every room matters because every part of your story matters. He enters the bedroom where you have spent nights praying, nights remembering, and nights hoping for comfort. He fills that space with peace, a peace that asks nothing from you except to receive it. He walks into the living room where photographs rest upon shelves, faces of people who shaped your life, people who remain close, people who live far away, people whose presence is now held within cherished memories. He pauses beside empty chairs, places once occupied by laughter, et conversation, and companionship. And somehow, even those empty places no longer feel abandoned, because Jesus understands what they represent: love, connection, stories shared, lives intertwined. He moves through quiet hallways and familiar corners, bringing warmth into spaces that may have felt lonely for far too long. And as he walks, his presence settles over your home like a gentle blanket, over the kitchen, over the windows, over every memory held within these walls, over your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren, your friends, those nearby, those far away, those you pray for every day. Tonight, you do not need to keep watch over everyone. You do not need to stay awake protecting what only God can truly hold. His presence surrounds this home. His peace remains here. And now, as the night grows quieter, Jesus wishes to speak peace directly to your weary soul. And perhaps, as you listen tonight, you can feel something inside you beginning to settle, not because every question has been answered, not because every sadness has disappeared, but because you are no longer carrying those burdens by yourself. Jesus remains beside you, quietly, faithfully, lovingly. You are not forgotten tonight, not by heaven, not by the one who has known your name since before your first breath. You are deeply loved, even in seasons when life feels smaller, even when the house is quiet, even when your heart aches for someone who is no longer here, even when you feel unseen by the world around you. You are held safely, tenderly, completely. And perhaps for many years you have felt the need to keep proving your strength, to remain composed, to appear capable, to convince yourself that you can handle one more day, one more burden, one more worry. But tonight there is nothing to prove, nothing to achieve, nothing to fix, nothing to earn. You are allowed to simply rest. As your breathing slows, perhaps you notice the tension leaving your shoulders. Your hands become softer. Your thoughts become quieter. The concerns that seemed so loud earlier in the day begin to drift into the background, and in their place comes peace. A gentle peace, a steady peace, a peace that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that comes from knowing you are safe, safe in God's care, safe in His presence, safe in His love. You are not alone tonight. Jesus remains beside you. You are loved. You are held. And now, before sleep gently carries you into the night, let us place one final prayer into the hands of Jesus. Dear Jesus, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for staying near when the world feels quiet and the heart feels weary. Thank you for understanding tears that were never seen by anyone else. Thank you for hearing prayers whispered in the darkness. Thank you for remaining faithful through every season of life, through years of joy, through years of loss, through seasons of companionship, through seasons of loneliness. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for never turning away from hearts that are hurting. Tonight, I place my worries into your hands. The worries about tomorrow, the worries about my family, the worries I have carried for so long that they began to feel like part of me. I place my grief before you, the people I miss, the conversations I long to have once more, the love that still remains inside my heart. I place my loneliness before you, the quiet evenings, the empty spaces, the moments when I wonder if anyone truly understands. Thank you for reminding me that I am never alone. Thank you for sitting beside me in the silence. Thank you for staying close when memories become overwhelming. Tonight, I pray for widows, for widowers, for those who sleep alone, for those carrying sorrow they rarely speak about, for those who are worried about tomorrow, for those who miss someone deeply. Wrap them in your peace. Surround them with your comfort. Let them feel your gentle presence near them tonight. And as sleep slowly arrives, remind our hearts that we are loved, that we are safe, that we are held. Jesus is here. Jesus is near. You are loved. You are safe. You are held. Rest now. Breathe slowly. Let your heart become quieter. Let your tears become lighter. Sleep peacefully. God watches over you tonight, and until morning comes, may His gentle presence remain beside you, carrying what you no longer have to carry alone. Amen.